This is Agronomy Moment. I'm Wendell Cohen.
All right, I'm taking the podcast number again, so we're like some 13, I think. Maybe not even. I don't know. It is actually we're 8 or 9, maybe. Yeah, you're probably right. Anyway, welcome back to Agronomy Moment. Scott Dickey's with me again. We're going to talk a little bit about soybeans in this really quick podcast here. So, Scott, one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is Japanese beetles. We've seen them some in the forest, but what's going on in soybean fields? Any thoughts on damage on leaves?
Well, when I think about Japanese beetles, most of the time when we make a spray on those guys, whether it's corn or beans, most of the time it appears to be a revenge spray. Because a lot of the time, especially when we find beetles that guys start getting upset about, that's the ones it's rare that a Japanese beetle can do enough damage to warrant a treatment. Sometimes they'll get down in the top of the ear and feed on the tip kernels, but that's rare. Normally what we're looking for is when we're less than 50% pollinated, the silk spin comes within a half inch of the ear. That would warrant a treatment if they're increasing still. And most of the time we just don't see that happen very often.
And would you say that was every 5th or 6th or stock, or I mean, there's so many? The reason I ask is sometimes I'll see one area where there's several in a row, but then it just fades away.
All these years we've been dealing with Japanese beetles, I've had 2 fields that I thought should have been sprayed, and they were by far heavier at the edge of the field in those 2 situations. So most of the time, I just haven't seen a reason to spray corn, unless a guy's like, kill those suckers for doing that.
Sure, that makes
a revenge spray than anything.
And you're thinking even on soybeans where we've got like some of this feeding, I can't see one right now. Well,
in general, in beans, typically, I've seen more situations where beans need sprayed than corn, because once we get to reproductive growth in beans, in our stages, it's 20% defoliation of all leaf years.
yes.
We've been in situations before where Japanese beetles have definitely caused enough lacing. You can see it everything here. These leaves where we're seeing what I call lacing. That one is probably pushing the 20% range, I guess.
But in my eyes, that almost looks like 50%. Like, I mean, it looks bad.
It looks way worse than it is usually. But that's 1 or 2 leaves here out of thousands of leaves. So, I mean, we're nowhere near a treatment threshold for this field for leaf feeding.
Sure, leaf feeding. Right. So
And that'd be the combination of Japanese beetles, loopers, green cloverworm, all of those leaf feeders. We've seen a lot of weed beetle out here in this particular field today. And some of those are going to be more of the shot hole look that you see on leaves like this. That's going to be what you'd see.
now, what about Japs? Do they ever eat into pods?
I've never seen that.
Okay.
I'm not going to say never, because you never say never, but I
think it'd be more of a random thing than a target.
Yeah, they just don't have the mouth parts to be they're able to feed on that coarser tissue in the pod.
Which
That's why you see the lacing of a leaf. They don't eat the veins, they just eat the softer material between the veins.
So before we leave this, let's jump into the potting stage of beans and do talk about some of the pests and pods.
We'll hit that before we go too.
Okay. But that's going to tag right into that, right?
Right.
So if you can take a zoom picture of that.
So what we're looking at here is a green stink bug egg mass, and they'll look like, if you had a hand lens and you could look at them closely, they'll look like beer kegs basically standing up on edge, and they'll usually have a fringe of hairs at the top. And so here shortly that egg mass will start to darken up, and you'll see the nymphs emerge from them, the nymph green stink bugs, and they will look like little black beetles. It's very small, size of a tick, or smaller actually when they hatch, obviously, because those eggs are so small. But when guys start noticing them, they'll tend to be the size of a tick. And I've had guys multiple times that have a bunch of ticks in the field. Every time it's green stink bug nymphs just hatched or starting to grow. They go through multiple stages of development before they reach the size that we normally think of a big thumb-sized green stink bug. But they're here. This is one of the pests I want to mention the most today, is because I think it's the one that's ignored the most when we get out into spraying for insects. It's 1 per crow is the treatment threshold for green stink bug.
Now, why are you so much more concerned about these than the Jap?
Because they're pod feeders.
Oh, okay.
Yep, they have a syringe basically for a mouth. They pierce into the plant, draw juices off of it, and they will do that to pods. And when they do that to a pod, it kills the bean under that point where they fed it.
Okay.
So their feeding on pods is direct loss, whereas the reduction in photosynthetic area due to leaf feeding it's a lot less impactful than the direct feeding of pods.
So, and so then as we're jumping into this, what would be a good timing for insecticide? Is it like just making sure you're in the art stage, or?
I would tie that into our fungicide treatment.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Right.
What's our timing on
So
that?
R3 is by far the best treatment stage for making a fungicide application in terms of return on your investment with a fungicide. And if you're going to make that trip, especially when you see a lot, I mean, these guys are here every year. We tend to not pay enough attention to them. I would throw the insecticide in to make sure to take care of it. And when I keep looking here, I see a few Japanese beetles. You're seeing the egg masses from green stink bug. You see a lot of bean leaf beetle out here. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're going to make a lot of money on foliar feeding that's going on here, but we have a lot of critters out here that are just starting to get going. And if a guy was getting close, which we're getting very close to being fungicide treatment time frame in this field, you know, we're looking for R3, and R3 would be a 3/16 of an inch pod in one of the 4 uppermost fully developed nodes. And in this case, we are basically there. We found the 3/16 of an inch pod in some of these plants, and so this planting date of this late group 4 in April, which is April what? April.
It was April like 20 something. That's what I was going to say.
This field is very close to being in the proper time to treat.
Okay, so what are we looking at? This is not a fully developed node, or yes or no?
Probably would not consider that because we see the leaflets of the trifoliate still crossed over one another.
Okay.
You're going down to the next trifoliate though, and you see that they are no longer overlapping.
That would be 1.
So I would call this the the uppermost fully developed node. So 1, 2, 3, and 4.
All right, and then in 4, do we have anything?
I don't think we do on this particular plant.
But sometime we will.
Very,
That's what we're
very
looking
close.
for. But we're looking maybe next week.
Yeah, I would say
Week
so.
or so,
in this.
10 days.
Yep. We're going to have a lot of fields. I think one of the key messages today is how quickly beans are developing now.
Okay.
And between now and the next 3 weeks, we'll have a lot of fields beginning to move into that R3 stage. Now, some of the late plant stuff obviously has a ways to go.
Now, the inevitable questions coming to my mind is, I want to wait a little later to spray my fungicide, get closer to the end of the road so we make sure we're lasting with fungicide treatment. But Beck says R3.
Right. When we think of
the
the key nodes that are developed once we get to that R3 stage, they are all present.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that, you know, when we look at data, long-term data even, R3 continues to always be the growth stage that provides us the highest return on investment.
Because everything, the majority of the yield
The
component is already
yield-producing
there.
nodes are already there, and we're going to be able to get them protected.
Okay. And fungicide, even though they call it curative, is largely preventative. And so you're stopping something from starting is better than, or what? Or I'm just wondering.
That or arresting what's there. There's both
Okay.
components of that, right?
Okay. Real quick, before we go and talk about diseases, what is that? What's a frog eye?
That,
I've never know if I see
I
one.
don't believe that is frog eye. I believe what we're looking at there, because in the corn there's a lot of it. I believe that is a gramoxone, paraquat drift.
It was just sprayed here not too long ago.
Okay, and that's just a drop
Okay.
of from the gramoxone
Makes
on that
sense.
leaf. If you look at the other side, you can see it goes clear through. And
Now, frog eye would not.
I think it would, but that it's just, I don't think that's, it looks very similar to what you'd have with frog eye, but I think gramoxone primarily because I've seen just a few of them out here, but in the corn there's quite a bit.
Yes.
The gramoxone drift, and we could show a picture of that too. But
No worries.
I would lean towards gramoxone on that one. I
Sure.
saw that at
Yeah,
first. I was like,
okay.
oh man, do we have frog eye?
I just have never noticed there would be a problem here, and so I don't know if
We
I
did here, but it,
Yeah.
you know, it's been reasonably dry lately, and I think of that as more of a warm, moist, dewy type of disease.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Humidity. We've been humid.
I always want to be watching for it because I hear about it. Now, anything to follow up? Anything else we were gonna touch on?
I don't think there's that much more. I think the key is just being prepared to spray the beans. If you're going, be ready.
It's fooling us because of calendar. We're sitting here the week after the 4th of July, and I'm thinking, hey, we've got some time here. And yesterday, I seen that we were well advanced already, and I'm like, whoa.
These early planted beans are moving right along
Yes,
very
they are.
rapidly. And you know, we sat there for so long with beans not growing very well this year.
Yes.
That's been U.S. wide, you know, from Nebraska through to Indiana. The beans just didn't develop very rapidly. Now all of a sudden they're exploding.
So, and it seems like in our neck of the woods, we probably have a little more early beans planted this year than we have in the past because we had the weather early, was dry before it turned wet, and had more time to maybe switch and get some in. So
be ready.
Be ready if you have those early beans. Even if they're full seasons, these are 4/8s, and we're right there on the green stink bug. There's our green stink
There's
bug.
the egg layers.
That's where, is that where the eggs come from, probably?
Yep, probably one of those anyway.
Yep. All right. I think I'm ready to wrap this one up because I want to keep it pretty short this time so guys can watch this and be focused on your soybeans coming up. I believe corn, we're kind of made our decisions. We're starting to pull away from seeing that.
One last thing is don't throw the towel in on the corn. I've had multiple comments from folks this week saying, oh, it's dry. And you look at a lot of this corn, it's almost fully pollinated in most cases.
Yes.
And it looks really good. And you know, everybody's saying the month coming is going to be dry. Well, we don't know that. One rain a week or one rain every couple of weeks will carry this corn crop pretty well. So I would not throw the towel in and abandon it.
Yes.
Not make a fungicide application, because some of these fungicides we're using can actually help this corn make it through the stresses a little better than untreated would. So I think if you even have a half a consideration of treating your corn, go ahead and do it.
And most fungicides have that component that you're talking about.
Strobilurins,
The strobilurins, like Headline Amp would have one. With Quilt.
Quilt XL, yep.
Beltima would.
Yep.
Trivapro. Lucento.
No, not sure.
Okay. Not sure enough. Moravis. Delaro.
Some of them might. We'll stop right there. I'd have to.
Right. Okay. But a lot of common ones we know, even some of the older ones still would have. Strobi's not anything that's
I
brand
can't
new.
remember what group those are.
That's fine. Anyway, that should wrap us up for this time. Thanks for Scott Dickey for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Everyone, thank you for joining us today on Agronomy Moment, a Top Ag Services production. If you want alerts on what we are finding in the field, go to topagservices.com/signups to receive alerts, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is our goal to bring you the most recent and advanced information possible. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to reach out to us anytime. We also ask you that you give us a like and follow our channel wherever you listen to your podcasts or watch these videos. This ultimately helps us reach more people like you. Hey, this has been Wendell Cohen, your show host. Thank you to all who made this show possible. This show is over. See ya.